Today I'm doing a collab with Amy from Diaries of a Disabled Mom. Now if you haven't been over to Amy's channel, you should really check it out. Amy is on the spectrum herself and she has a son, Augustus, who is really sweet, who has also just been recently diagnosed as also being on the spectrum. And Amy's channel is one of the channels that I watch basically every time I sit down to watch YouTube. I have been really enjoying it. They have had a lot going on. Recently her son just had an MRI, and today Amy and I are both going to be giving gift ideas for kids who are on the spectrum. Now my ideas are definitely going to be strongly influenced by the fact that all of our kids on the spectrum are definitely sensory seekers. But some of my gift choices are also going to be more general. I tried to think of general gift ideas and my experience over the years as a mom, especially to Maggie for the last 8 years, and the toys that have been huge hits with her. It took a while to figure out, since she isn't a kid who loved basically age-appropriate toys. Somebody asked in the comment section the other day why I wasn't buying Tessie age-appropriate toys, and the answer was quite simply because if I bought Tessie age-appropriate toys, dolls and other toys that people would see, that people would typically buy a 2-year-old girl, she wouldn't play with them. And so I buy her toys that she's going to play with. It does help to know the person that you're shopping for, because if you know one person on the spectrum, you know one person on the spectrum. However, a lot of these are going to be items that I know that a lot of the little kids that my kids go to school with would be fired up over, and that would be popular at the therapy centers that they go to. So I am excited to share them with you today. You probably guessed the first one. It's a really big hit around here right now. Anything with mermaid fabric is huge. In another video I showed you guys Tessie's mermaid pillow. This is a mermaid tail. I found this at Big Lots. It was $24. It's a mermaid tail, so that's in its favor, but it also has like the mermaid fabric that she loves so much that can be stroked to turn one way or back the other way. And Tessie, I have a video where she like basically stims on this for like hours. She will sit and pet this fabric for like hours and hours and hours and make it go one way, then make it go back the other way. And so that is basically one of Tessie's favorite things to do. And it also is like, this one is super padded, and it's also a mermaid tail, and because Maggie loves mermaids, I think that's really what kicked off Tessie's mermaid obsession. So very young. This mermaid tail really combines the best of both worlds in that it is a mermaid tail and it is sequined. If you watch my $11 sensory bin from Dollar Tree, really any of those items would be perfect for Christmas. In fact, you could put together that whole sensory bin for $11. But what I'm going to share here are any of the little squishy sensory items that they have at Dollar Tree would be perfect. And Tessie spends a ton of time playing with these still. When we go to Dollar Tree, I'll just grab a handful of these. All of our kids play with them, but especially Tessie. She'll walk around the house carrying these, stretching them. She likes to put them on other toys and like wrap this, especially this one. I'll find her wrapping this around other toys and finding various ways to play with it. I feel like it is good for her imagination. I don't know, it's good for her motor skills because she's like finding different ways to do things with it. I like to think it's good for her imagination. I'm not sure what she's doing with it when she's wrapping it around Catboy, her Catboy doll. Maybe she's pretending that it's a giant centipede that Catboy's battling. Who knows? If you're looking for an affordable sensory toy, the little squish up light up toys at Dollar Tree are a deal. You can get a bunch of them. They're each $1, and it is definitely for all ages. I mean, everyone from our 10-year-old down to our 2-year-old plays with these and has a blast. Next up isn't something that I can fit in my room right here, but I'm going to play a clip of Tessie playing on one of her favorite toys at my parents' house. Now the one at my parents' house is an old one that actually was left behind when the old owners of their house moved out. Another top toy around here has always been the bouncy horses or rocking horses. Sadie got one for her 3rd birthday and Maggie has been riding on it since she was 1, and I actually think that a lot of her very solid gross motor skills come from the time that she spent determined to climb onto that. All of our kids have spent a lot of time on our little bouncy horse, and I do think that it has been really helpful in building their gross motor skills because it's something that they think of as fun. All of our kids, from our neurotypical kids to our kids who are on the spectrum, all of our kids have loved it. The biggest problem we have probably had with it is people fighting over it, over whose turn it is. It is definitely one of the more expensive presents, or at least it would be for us. It would be a more expensive present. This for us was like a grandparent's present that was given to Sadie, but it's lasted, I mean, for 7 years, and it has gotten a ton of use for 5 kids. Honestly, for us, we have found that like any sort of ride-on toys, any sort of like rocking horses, any sort of cars, all of those have been really successful with both of our girls. They've both loved all of the riding toys. I have used so many of the rocking toys and riding toys with the therapists that have come here. We get those toys out a lot when therapists are over, and we used those toys a lot when Tessie was littler during her therapy sessions. Even like the push toys, like she had a lot of little push toys. Those also, if you have a smaller child, those could be really helpful. She had like a little tiger toy, or no, a little lion, and it could either be a ride-on or you could pull it up and it could be a push toy. And that actually was a toy that has been used during so many therapy sessions for James and for Tessie. If I was going for like the youngest age group, if you do have a little tiny kid who's like in early intervention, who's suspected of being on the spectrum, one of the toys that I would probably get would be like the little push toys that could also possibly be either push toys or ride-on toys. Those are probably the ones that we used a lot for gross motor skills in early on, especially if your kid's not a walker yet. We used the little push toy to like help Tessie a lot, and then especially the ones that are push toys that can convert into ride-on toys. The ride-on toys to like help her learn how to use her legs to push herself along while she was riding. I would recommend the one we have, but the one we've had for like 10 years, so I don't think the Lion push ride-on toy is like still out there. So yeah, actually like the Fisher-Price Sit and Ride Lion is basically the equivalent of what we had. It was something that we got a ton of use out of. And honestly, I know that there's so much about not having toys with electronics, not having toys that light up. It is very, very popular to say that toys should be plain and wooden and you use your imagination. However, a lot of times with kids on the spectrum, I know all kids are different. However, in our experience with our girls, a lot of times with our girls, we found, especially when Maggie was little, that it really helped to have toys that lit up to hold her attention. She wasn't really interested in toys at all. She would hold a toy in her hand and walk around with it. And other than that, she really didn't care about toys that much. And she certainly wasn't using them appropriately. And she certainly wasn't, at that point, when she was using toddler toys, she certainly wasn't using them in ways that would be imaginative. And so I definitely used light-up toys as a way to at least get her looking at toys and interacting with toys, because the light-up toys were toys that she would at least look at those toys for a minute and give them her attention for a minute, and that was more than we were getting out of other toys. So if you are a parent of a kid that's on the spectrum, I wouldn't take the advice that all of your toys need to be non-electronic too much to heart, because you also want your kids to play with toys. If your kid is only going to pay attention to a toy, if that toy is really, really drawing them in, I would get the toy that's really, really drawing them in more than the toy that is more trendy right now to have. And that's pretty much what we've done. And where we've found the toys that have really drawn our kids in have been the toys that are more interactive, that do have more lights, that do have more sounds, at least when they're small. And now Maggie does have a fantastic imagination, and she does come up with all sorts of games, and she's playing Lion King with the other kids at school, and she's a really cool kid. And she still doesn't play with toys typically, and she will always, I'm sure, love electronics. But most adults today love electronics too. Another gift that has always been very, very well received around here, that will probably be well received both by your neurotypical child and by your child on a spectrum, if you know what they like, is a costume. So this was one that I made for our girls a few years ago that has been loved almost to death. I made this one to meet their sensory needs too, so it was stretchy. It was a little bit like a body sock, and it was basically all I did was sew it like a body sock, and then I put little straps on the shoulders. Basically, So body sock, that's another one, that's another present that you could gift. But body sock is not what I'm talking about here today. Body sock is the present you could get, but costumes, if you know what a kid is interested in and you're able to get a costume that is related to that interest, that can be a really, really big hit. Maggie basically wore costumes. Maggie and Sadie together basically wore costumes almost every day for, I would say, the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 years of life. Maggie was a princess, a mermaid, some version of Princess Mermaid almost every day. Princess Mermaid Dora probably. And she loved dressing up. When that kid got a princess costume, she was so happy. Or a mermaid costume, like this. So, if you have a kid that likes to dress up, and a lot of kids like to dress up, whether they're on the spectrum or not, you can make them very, very happy. Although be prepared for never taking that costume off. You may want to get 2, one to wash and one to wear. Anyways, there are so many good sensory presents out there right now. I mean, there's slime, there's foam, there's the squishy toys we talked about. There are so many things. There's also so many things that I haven't named. If you know a kid that has a special interest, I would usually cater to that special interest, honestly. Most of the presents I'm getting our girls are within their special interests. Maggie's presents very, very much are focused on bubble guppies, and Tessie's presents are very much focused on mermaid sequin stimming, which is basically her favorite thing to do. Anyways, that is it for today. Definitely check out Amy's list. I can't wait to watch it. If you enjoyed this video, we would love it if you would hit that like button. If you're new here, we talk about all things autism, and we'd love it if you'd stick around and subscribe. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.